Speaker Mike Johnson is refusing to back down from his strategy of keeping the House out of session until Senate Democrats vote to end the government shutdown. But one GOP lawmaker is bucking the party line. Congressman Kevin Kiley of California is one of a few GOP lawmakers still showing up to work in Washington. He's also been very critical of Johnson's handling of the shutdown, believing Republicans should be in Washington negotiating a solution rather than staying on hiatus in their districts. But Johnson isn't budging, as Congress will likely be out of session for a fourth consecutive week. Watch here.
I hereby designate the period from Tuesday, October 7th, 2025 through Monday, October 13th, 2025 as a district work period.
From Tuesday, October 14th, 2025 through Sunday, October 19th, 2025 as a district work period from Monday, October 20th, 2025 through Sunday, October 26th, 2025 as a district work period. Signed sincerely, Mike Johnson.
Republican Congressman Kevin Kiley of California joins us now. So, Congressman, I just have to say to start, thanks for showing up to work. You are one of the House Republicans who isn't quiet quitting. But, you know, if Speaker Johnson keeps calling hiatus on having the House in session, would you support a vote to vacate his chair and oust him as Speaker?
That's premature. We don't need to, vacating the chair actually shuts the House of Representatives down in and of itself. So that wouldn't be a very good solution for the House of Representatives being shut down. And we saw during my first term that just paralyzed the House for weeks. But what I am doing is very actively calling on the Speaker to bring the House of Representatives back. Indeed, it's not just bringing the House back, it's just stopping this ongoing cancellation of each and every week of session. It's gotten absolutely ridiculous. I mean, we're now 4 straight weeks that the House of Representatives was scheduled to be there doing the work of the people, holding oversight hearings, working on legislation. All of it has just been canceled for no discernible reason that I can really understand. So I don't feel like this is a particularly radical or controversial position I'm taking, that the House of Representatives ought to show up, that the people have a right to a representative government.
Congressman, speaking of the things that are part of Congress's job, one of Democrats' demands, besides health care, is to try to make it harder for the president to unilaterally and illegally cut funding that has been lawfully appropriated by Congress, which is supposed to have the power of the purse. The idea being that when Congress says, here's $1 billion for a bridge, the president can only use half of it or even none of it, as has happened with some programs. Do you agree with that objective, bearing in mind that this precedent could maybe allow a Democratic president to say, I'm just not going to spend the money on ICE?
Yeah, so that part of it is not unreasonable as a negotiating position. I mean, not just in terms of rescissions that are done by the president himself, but there actually was a rescissions bill that was passed by Congress. And Congress does have the authority to do those rescissions. So there was nothing unlawful or untoward about that. But the point that the Democrats might make is that in order to enact a budget or an appropriations bill, you need to have but the rescissions only require a simple majority. So that's, I guess, part of their negotiating position is they want to have some assurance that what's being done with bipartisan support will not be undone in a party line vote. So if that's what their position is, then I understand where they're coming from on that. I tend to think, and the reason I voted for the clean CR in the House is that, whatever complaints might be raised along those lines are not nearly as bad as the consequences of a government shutdown. So I wish the Senate would just go ahead and pass that same CR and we can get the government open and we get the million people back to work. But I also understand that if there's an unwillingness to do that, then at some point we need to actually have some conversations to see if we can find some bipartisan common ground to get Americans the government that they are paying for back serving them.
So just to bring this home to your district, because you said that Congress has blessed some of these rescissions, not all of them. OMB Director Russell Vought has already cut $232 million in energy projects in your own district. Do you think he should be allowed to do that?
Well, so now we're talking about things that are being done in the context of the shutdown. So we kind of have to distinguish all these things, right? You have congressionally approved rescissions, you have rescissions that have been done by the administration itself, and then you have the trade-offs that they're forced to make by virtue of being in a shutdown. And that's different in that, you know, when you have a government shutdown, suddenly the executive branch isn't given the money they need in order to run the government, and they don't have the ability to fund themselves. It's Congress's job to fund the executive branch. And so when Congress fails to do that, it's an absolute institutional failure. And the administration then is forced to say, OK, how do we make do here? So you have things like, you know, with the military folks potentially missing their paychecks. They found a solution there. I know they're trying to find a solution in other areas. And this example that you cite is one of the things that they've done. So, you know, to the extent that this is problematic, which I think it is in a lot of different ways where they're being forced to make these trade-offs, the clear and simple solution is let's get the government open so the executive branch can be funded.
Congressman, I need to ask you about the bombshell Politico report that came out earlier this past week that revealed that young Republican leaders in the country have been in a group chat exchanging incredibly racist and anti-Semitic remarks. I want your response to this revelation, but also a bit of a reflection on what this means about the upcoming generation of leaders in your party. Are you worried about who's serving in these offices, who's coming up behind you in the coming years?
Well, obviously, it was extremely troubling, and I condemn in no uncertain terms the extremely offensive terms and ideas that were expressed in that thread. I do think that it points to, and I'm not sure that I would say this is, you know, endemic to one party or the other, but to the need to have greater civic education in this country, and for those of us in elected office to set a better example. I mean, we've seen, you know, for many, many years now, the level of political division in this country has gotten alarmingly high. You know, the temperature has continued to be dialed up in terms of the rhetoric. And so, and it just seems to keep getting worse and worse every year. And, you know, the government shutdown is part of this. This is sort of like the ultimate manifestation of excessive partisanship. And so I do think it's incumbent on all of us to try to set a better example and try to find more common ground that we should all share as Americans.
Were you not alarmed, though, that the Vice President, J.D. Vance, called the people in this chat kids, seemed to downplay the seriousness of what was discovered here?
I didn't see his remarks, and I don't know to what extent.
You didn't see them? I think everybody's seen them.
I don't know specifically what he said, but I myself absolutely condemn the remarks in that thread and the ideas.
Do you consider 20 and 30-year-olds children? Because the Vice President called them kids.
I don't know that I consider someone who's a 30-year-old to be a child, no.
That's helpful.
Under the law, either, probably. Congressman Kevin Kiley,
Thanks, Congressman.
Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us.
Of course. Thanks for having me.